You'll hear a little bit of music and some geese, and then we'll go. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker podcast. And I forgot who the hell we're even sponsored by today.
We are brought to you by the Looking Glass Duck Club podcast. Go check them out on Patreon. How about that?
I think that's exactly who was
Perfect.
up to. So anyways,
Even better.
You done a really good guy.
Even better.
Okay, with us today, before we get into this today, Ducks Unlimited, they got a few booths left open for ducks. I talked to them today, and they said to tell people it'll probably be sold out by this.
May
by the
5th
time.
and 6th?
Yep, but they got a couple of booths on the inside available, so if you're interested, be at Ducks at Texas Motor Speedway. And I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver, and with us today from Calgary, Alberta, the Grizzly Dude 1 on Instagram, Mr. Jeremy Evans, who has quite a bear tale to tell us today. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing awesome.
Did you?
And you guys?
Well, we're in deep red Texas, and I'm sure you saw the news that Trump got fingerprinted. So it's a shitty day. Every day in America politics, you're just like, oh my God, what are we doing here? But
It's
that's
ridiculous.
why I am glad to be talking to you, because we're not going to get into any of that.
This is going to be a politic-free podcast today, maybe.
Did you watch The Revenant? You were mauled by a bear. A terrible attack. Did you see The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio?
I did. Actually, I saw that in the hospital on week 3. The nurses there played it for me.
How, when you see that bear attack, how far off did Hollywood get this?
Well, my bear attack's a little bit different. I just think he was a pussy in that there, just from what I endured versus what... I just remember the nurses there. They're like, "Have you seen The Revenant?" I didn't even hear about it, and I was in the hospital. It was about week 3, so they got out some popcorn, and we sat there, me and 2 nurses, and we watched the bear attack part. And they're like, "Well, describe how it was different than yours." I remember that.
But now you said you had PTSD from this. You would wake up anytime you would close your eyes and go to sleep. You would wake up having nightmares. Why the fuck did the nurses think, "Oh, this is a good idea to play this to the guy"?
I don't know. Maybe they figured it would help. I was joking around with it quite a bit, and they're like, "You got to check this out." And when we played it, yeah, it caused a few nightmares. It was interesting.
So were you out hunting? Is that what it was, or you were just out hiking?
I was out sheep hunting. It was the day before sheep season, so I was heading out to go find my ram and hopefully harvest them on the first day of the season.
And then you came across, the typical scene. You see a little cub, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Where's Mama?" And then she showed up.
Yeah. Well, it kind of wasn't really the typical scene. I rode my bike in, and I'm coming out of the trees, the edge of the tree line, just taking my time, moving 10 feet, watching for 10 minutes. I spotted some sheep, and I was just slowly working my way in, watching them, see which direction they're going to go. So just slowly move my way down the trail. And one point in time there, I spotted some rams, and I got my elbows on my handlebars, really watching the sheep, kind of focusing in on them, checking to see if my ram was in the bunch, so one of the ones I was looking for. And I stood up to stretch and move, and I noticed this little brown thing ran in front of me about 10 feet away. And I was like, "Oh shit," because I knew right away what it was. It was, grizzly bear cub, and I knew it was in a bad spot. Mama had to be close by, and I was wondering what side she was on. As I was kind of in shock, I was reaching my backpack to grab my bear spray, and as I'm reaching in there, I heard a branch break over my right shoulder, and I turned and looked. There was Mama. She was less than arm's reach away.
Fuck.
She had her right front paw stretched out. I remember seeing her mouth kind of gaping open, her teeth, and I can see her left eye. You can see like the whites of it. She was focused in, and she was on a full charge, ready to grab me.
And you never got your bear spray out. It happened too fast.
No, it happened way too fast. It was actually it was in the bottom of my backpack. I made a mistake and shoved it in there.
Had you had encounters with bears prior to this? I mean, I'm sure you've seen them at least.
I've seen lots of bears in that area. The first time I was in there when I was 17 years old, ran into two grizzly bears, got pretty close to them. They didn't charge or anything. And then the year before I got mauled, I actually sprayed a bear. I had a big old boar. I surprised him, and he charged me, and I sprayed him, and he stopped on a dime and took off.
So when she come at you like this, did she swap you with her paw first?
No. So she was charging from behind me, well, arms reach away. I managed to just grab the frame of my bicycle, and I stepped aside and dropped the bike in front of her. Her head went through the frame of the bicycle, and she turned right around and looked at me, and my bike was basically on her head like a necklace. And so I had a frame pack, a Badlands Ox pack, and I was holding on to the frame, and the part that goes against my back was facing her. First thing I did was just smash her right in the face with it and nose. She grabbed it and shook it, and I pulled it back, and she managed to get the bike off her neck, and she come back snapping at me, and I was smashing her in the face with the backpack, beating her on the head with the metal part of the frame. While I was doing that, she managed to get a hold of my right hand and crush against the frame of the pack, and I managed to get free, and I hit her really good hard in the nose, and she started backing away, and then she turned around, and so I started backing up, trying to get my bear spray on my backpack or my gun off. I was just tugging at stuff, and I just remember walking backwards trying to get it off, and I looked up, and she's about 30 feet away. She just spun around on a dime and came charging back in. And this is what I call the beginning of round two.
Fuck. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I had a shit all over myself.
Now, here's my first dumb question of this interview, and I'm going to ask a lot. When you're in the middle of this battle, does it hurt? Or is your adrenaline at such a state to where you know that you kind of know what's happening, but like the pain's not excruciating?
This is a good question.
I don't remember any pain, actually. I remember seeing her grab my hand and crush, and just I can hear things popping. I never felt any pain at that point.
But I'm sure pain ensued, once the rehabilitation, I'm sure when all the adrenaline dumps off, and then it's just mind-numbing pain.
So we're at round two now, and you are trying to get your gun off or your spray, and she's bearing down on you.
What kind of gun did you have?
I had a Tika T3 light, and it was strapped to the back of my backpack.
So you had a rifle.
Yeah, I had a rifle, 300 Win Mag.
That would have done the job, wouldn't it have? If you could have gotten it off.
No, because you get the bear running at you, and you got one bullet. She's 30 feet away, charging in. What's the chance I'm going to hit her in the head? What's the chance I'm going to hit her and actually kill her on the spot? I think I don't think that was my best course of action. I think my bear spray would have been a better option.
Right. So round two starts. What's the tactic here? She comes at you. I know at one point you decide to play dead. Is that how you started round two?
No. So she turned around and come running at me, and I just decided to chuck my backpack at her as a last ditch effort, and maybe figured she would get tied up on the backpack and maybe take my lunch or something. It was just like a throw it at her, and I was going to run up the mountainside. It was pretty steep hill. I was going to try running up there into the trees and try jumping off the steep side of the hill into a tree, hoping I can get high enough up off the ground that she wouldn't be able to get at me. So I run up, and I picked what I thought was a fairly large tree. It was probably about a 8-inch caliper base spruce tree. So I jump up into that. I get about 5.5, 6 feet off the ground, about where my chest is, and I'm pulling up my right leg. And as I'm pulling my right leg, I can hear her running, like I hear her huffing, and she's right below me. She stood up on her hind legs and wrapped her paws around my right leg and pulled it towards her mouth, and she lunged up. And I just remember looking down at her when she's lunging up to grab my leg. I was like, this is going to hurt. And her teeth connected all around, or grabbing right from behind the knee, and her teeth kind of dug into my kneecap. So she crunched on, and then just one little head jerk pulled me right out of the tree.
Wow. God, that's got to be a horrible thing to see coming at you. So I guess, so what happened after this?
That's after round 2. Now we got to start round 3. Now you're on the ground with this bitch.
Oh, no. Yeah, this is still round 2.
Oh, okay.
So I hit the ground pretty hard out of the tree, and it was a spruce tree, so I crawled underneath it, wrapped myself around the tree, figured it'd be a little tougher for her to get at me with the spruce browse. But she's digging. She started to get a little like frustrated or more aggressive. She reached in with her mouth, grabbed me on the right side, on the left side in the love handle area, just took a big bite, picked me up, and threw me about 5-6 feet. I hit the ground really hard, and it knocked the wind out of me. And so I'm trying to take a breath, and I'm trying to curl up in a ball. I figure, play dead. As I'm trying to curl up into a ball and take a breath, she was on top of me instantly. And she took her first bite. She got a hold of my face. Her canines caught me on either side of the left eye, right in the top corner where my nose meets my eye. I don't know if this is a video podcast.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yep.
So here I got a bear skull here, and what she did was she caught me right with her canine tooth right in the top corner, and she clamped down, crushing the whole left side of my face. And as that first bite happened, I'm just sitting there going, fuck this, playing dead sucks. Like, this hurts.
Fuck this. Now you said you've said in some of your interviews that that left eye was popped out, and like you had to like either lift it up or look up because like your eye was facing the ground, right?
Correct.
Oh my God.
And the optical nerves, I guess, stayed attached, so you're seeing what your eye's seeing.
Correct. Everything was still attached. My eye itself wasn't damaged, but all the muscles around it, my eye sockets were all busted. They're all titanium. It looks like I have like a Phantom of the Opera mask underneath my skin there, with both eye sockets got crushed and replaced, and a chunk of my forehead. I mean, I got steel all over the place.
Now, what are the odds of her taking a chunk out of your face and your eyeball, like the intricate details of your eyeball not being damaged? Like, that's
very lucky.
It's amazing that you still have your eyesight.
Yeah, well, so I do have some complications because it's in slightly different levels. I have to wear prism glasses. In other words, things don't look 3-dimensional. It's like 2D. It's very hard to see and focus on things. So that's with all my glasses. With my glasses on, and having the glasses, I could see more 3-dimensional.
Right.
So it makes it a little
corrective
easier.
Lenses.
Correct. Yeah.
So this thing's munching down on your face. How do you get out of this?
Well, she took that first bite, and then I said, screw this. So I rolled over and started punching her in the face with my right arm. I stuck my finger in her nose, trying to get like the little curl on the edge of her nose. I was trying to grab that, peel that back. She'd snap on my hand, and I'd try to poke the eyeball and grab her ear. She was snapping at me, I was able to get my hand away. And then she come down to bite me in the face a second time. And as she come down to bite me in the face a second time, it just was like a sweet moment. Her mouth was just open and in the right position. I was able to punch my left hand into her mouth. And I just remember my fingers sliding down her tongue, and you could feel all the bumps and the ridges and the scars, kind of like with like soft leather. When the further you got back, it got rough, and then it got smooth again. And I shoved my index finger and middle finger down into her throat and wrapped my thumb and ring and pinky finger around her tongue and squeezed hard as I could with my 2 fingers down her throat. The first thing she was like started to choke almost and kind of gasp. So I was still holding on, and her back legs were digging into my right side. I could feel her claws, and that was quite painful. I was trying to push her off, trying to push her legs off, and it wasn't having much luck when I was pushing on it. My hand just slipped, or I slipped on the fur, and I hit the belly, and I could tell it was the belly because of the lack of hair and much thinner. And I reached up and grabbed something what I thought was balls, some very loose skin, and I grabbed, twisted, and pulled. And as soon as I grabbed that and twisted and pulled, she kind of made like a and then squealed like a pig, like a real deep squeal of a pig. Well, she's making this horrible sound and gagging. I figured she got the point, so I let go, and she ran back the way she came. And I just remember feeling it and seeing it as she defecated all across the hillside as she ran away.
Really? Well, that would have been insult to injury if she just shit all over you.
Well, I got a little bit on me. I'm not sure if it was mine or hers, but there was a little bit.
Oh my God. So you had to, so when you reached under with your right hand to push her legs off, were you able, you still had your left hand down her throat?
Correct. Yeah. My left hand was in her throat, and my right hand was holding on to something soft.
What do you think you got under there that was soft?
Well, I thought it was balls at first. And then the game warden told me that it was a female bear, and and it wasn't balls I was holding on to, and I kept telling them no, it was balls. I just ripped them off, and now it's a female bear. I got a hold of something, probably the female private parts, whatever, real loose skin, I guess really loose skin.
Vagina lips, maybe.
Yeah, maybe there.
Got the old clitoris.
Maybe you got a butthole. Maybe that's why she defecated everywhere. You had your hand up her ass.
So she sprinted off when you did this.
And she took off.
Okay.
I didn't at that point. I didn't think I was that bad. I stood up right away and I dusted myself off. I'm like, well, that sucked. Walked down from the tree I was at. Walked down the hill to my backpack, and the first thing I did was pull out my backpack, and I took out my phone, and I just wanted to see what it looked like. And I took a selfie picture of me just of my face to see what it looked like. And I was looking at it thinking, well, it's not too bad. I mean, I can go shoot that sheep over there or go hunt this bear and call her a day. And I was pretty upset because I knew my sheep hunt was over, and I was, this is my year. This is my year to get my ram. I spent all summer out there, and there he is. And now the stupid bear got in between us. So I'm sitting there, took the picture thinking, well, what should I do? Took my gun off my backpack, and I'm leaning against this old rotten stump. Got the gun leaning against my left shoulder, got the clip in my right hand, and I'm pushing shells in, just kind of like, man, that stupid bear. As I'm doing that, I got, 2, maybe 3 rounds in the clip. Everything went numb, and I heard the sound of like ice breaking.
Oh, no.
My hands just kind of dropped. She had come back and grabbed me by the back of the head, and she dragged me back into the bush. I just remember seeing her paws on either side of me as she's like pushing on the ground, pushing backwards, and you can hear her just huffing, and she's digging into the ground. And I don't know how far she dragged me in. I don't think it was very far, but it felt like quite a ways. I was still sitting on my butt, and she was holding on back my head. She first grabbed me with her claw and caught me on the right side of the mouth, corner of the nose, right side of the nose, and her claw ripped everything off on the right side, including my right ear, and just totally descalped me on the one side.
Holy shit.
And then I remember you could hear her teeth just grinding away on the back of my head and just crunching like a dog bone, just like a dog gnawing on a bone, and she pulling things off. I couldn't feel anything, but you could just feel the pressure, and you could just hear all the bones in your face just crack, and her teeth just gnawing away. She was chewing on my left shoulder and collarbone, neck area, and the top left side of my head. And then one moment she stopped. She must have repositioned. I remember falling backwards and laying on the ground looking up. I couldn't see at this point. I could just see it was all blurry, and I could tell that something was above me, very close to my face. I reached up and grabbed what I thought was balls again, something nice and soft. I grabbed with both hands this time and just twisted and pulled as hard as I could. And she made a really deep sound like a pig just squealing. And whatever I had, I was pulling myself up trying to rip it off. And then I wrapped my legs around her neck and kind of locked them in. And I was just squeezing hard as I could with my legs and whatever I had, I was trying to rip off with my hands. She at first started rolling around, just kind of thrashing, rolling around and bucking like a bronco. And I was just, whatever I had, I was trying to rip off. I eventually let go. I could tell that she was moving in one direction. Like it seemed like she was just running. So I let go. And she just squealed and ran down the mountainside, just squealing. You can hear her for quite a ways. After that, I couldn't see. I didn't really know where I was. Well, I kind of knew where I was on the hillside, but I couldn't see. My left eye at this point was hanging out of the socket, hanging down. My right eye, I was feeling for it. I didn't think I had a right eye because there's nothing there. There was just chunks of flesh hanging down on the left side of my face. My jaw was hanging down. My teeth were exposed. All the skin was peeled off, kind of down around my neck. So I couldn't stand. I was still at this point, wasn't really feeling any pain. I was more kind of really full of adrenaline. I crawled down the hill and managed to find the trail. And then I figured, I had to crawl down a little bit more, and I found the stump I was leaning against, and I found my pack, and I was panicking, feeling around, and I found my gun right away. And I grabbed a shell and I tried to stick it in the gun, but my eye was so messed up, my vision, my fingers, I was unable to get the shell down into the chamber. I was trying to drop it in, and I just couldn't see. So I started to panic. And I was feeling around looking for the clip, feeling through the bushes and crawling around. The first thing I found, something fleshy, it was my mustache and goatee and lips, part of my lips. I found that. And then I found another chunk of, it looked like a piece of my forehead and hair and part of my ear.
Wait a minute. When you say you found it, it was on the ground when you
Yes.
found them on the ground?
On the ground, yeah.
Holy fuck. I thought you meant you were just like reaching around on your body and then you found them. You found your ear and your lips and your goatee on the ground by the rifle.
Correct. Not by the rifle.
In your search,
a few feet
in
away.
your search for your goods.
So do you have any eyesight at all at this time?
Or is it black or,
No.
or what's it like? Is it just, is it totally black or no?
No, not totally black. It's just very, very blurry. Like just like having water in your eyes. You can't see. Just everything's all blurry.
Right.
Extremely blurry. When I found the clip, I slammed in the gun, and the first thing that I saw that was dark, that looked dark to me, I put 3 rounds in it, like right away, just ding, ding, ding. And then scrambling through my pack, get more rounds, put them in, pick the next dark thing. And I'm sitting there, feeling around the mountainside, and I found, a bunch of chunks in my face, and I'm holding them, and I'm kind of like, well, I'm fucked. Like, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
I was sitting there and, at my pack, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I kind of knew this was the end for me. Like I was going to die. There was no way. How can you recover from this? There's blood all over the place. It's coming out of all different areas. I grabbed my phone and trying to text my wife to let her know that, I got attacked by a bear and it's really bad and I'm not going to make it. I chose at that point that, I knew I was going to die. I just had to figure out how, either let it happen or end it myself. So I chose to end it myself. So I sent my goodbyes to my wife, and I grabbed my gun, and I loaded it up, and I put the gun between my legs, the butt in the ground, put the barrel against my chin, and I pulled the trigger, and the gun just clicked. Thought it was kind of weird. At first, it kind of was dazed, didn't what happened. So I leaned the gun aside and just lifted the bolt up and down again, then pulled the trigger, and the gun went off just inches from the side of my face. That scared me. I was thinking, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I gotta at least try. Like my wife and daughter, I owe it to them to at least try to make it somewhere where they're gonna find the body. Because where I was, no one was gonna find me. I mean, it'd been months.
Right. So when you're contemplating ending it yourself, is this like how long do you think you thought about that? Was it like, okay, like I'm not gonna make it, like let's just do this? Was it something that fast, or did you sit down and like actually lay out like, okay, what I'm about to do is serious?
I want to say I probably thought about it for a while. I think I did. I bet you it was probably pretty quick. I'm just sitting there looking, like all these pieces of my face.
Yeah.
Blood squirting out. I think it was pretty quick decision. I think I knew.
And then when the shot went off right by your head, that's like you said, that scared you, and it kind of put things back into perspective. Like, okay, no, like we need to try. Let's try to get off this mountain.
Yeah. That kind of just put it in perspective. Like, if I were to die right there, no one would find me. I was so far back. The outfitters, a lot of people don't go back there. It just kind of clicked like, wait a second, I need to get somewhere where they're going to find the body.
Right.
So we just pulled up a picture of you after you're walking out, how bad it was.
Which picture was that? Did you take 2 selfies? Because you said you took a selfie after round 2. This one, it doesn't look like there's much of your face left. Did you take another one after the 3rd attack?
Yes.
Okay.
I got another picture. It's where the skin's totally removed, and it looks like someone took a ball peen hammer to my face.
You don't have a jaw, like you don't have anything.
Yeah, you've got.
That you guys have is between round 2, is after round 2.
So
there's a picture, but worse than that one.
Holy!
I don't think there possibly could be. Well, his eye's still intact though. His eye's intact still.
My
eyes attached.
My eyes intact.
I don't know. Can you see this or not? It's just That's after round 2.
Yep.
Jesus Christ,
motherfucker! And it got worse than that. Yeah, because your jaw's there and your goatee's still there. So yeah, that'd be.
I've seen some bad wrecks before, and I ain't never seen nobody that bad.
Motherfucker.
So we get to round 3. You try to shoot yourself, and you fail, which was the best thing happened to you. Tell us about this now. So how far a walk is it back to you to civilization?
And how do you stop bleeding and everything else that you've got to do to make this walk?
So the walk was a little over 12 kilometers. Where I was about a little over 12 kilometers over 2 ridges and across the creek about 11 times or so. While I'm sitting there on the hillside, after I made the decision that, I'm going to try, I took a sweatshirt, a long sleeve shirt that I had, put it on upside down, and I peeled it down, and I put the layers of my face on top of my shirt.
The stuff that you collected off the ground, the ears, the goatee, all that.
Yeah. And I put it on top of my head, and I folded the shirt back, and I tied the sleeves underneath my chin to hold my jaw up, and then tied 2 knots in the back, so it was really tight to help hold my neck straight, or try to hold it somewhat up. Then
hold on, are you still blind at this time? Like you still can't really see all that great?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just all fuzzy.
Okay.
So first thing I tried to do was to stand up, and I couldn't. I was using my gun as a cane, and I just couldn't get up. Every time I get up, my right leg, it just would give out, and I'd fall over. And it just kept trying and kept falling over. And then I finally figured out, I needed to shuffle my left leg forward, and then try to swing my right leg over, and then take small steps. But the first part of the trail, the first 100 feet of the trail, it goes down 300-400 feet down a drainage. And I got, about a third of the way down, and I lost my footing, and I tumbled head over heels down into the drainage, down into the boulders. So I fall all the way down, and I'm laying in there, and I'm hurt. And at this point in time, I was really a lot of pain. I hardly move. My gun was my arm was wrapped up in the gun sling, and I'm laying in the rocks, and I was hurting really, really bad. And I gave up. I literally just wanted to end it. So much pain. I pulled out my phone and was trying to play some music just so I could calm down and relax and fall asleep. And when I'm laying there, I pull my phone out and I messaged my wife, let her know that I tried to make it. And then I was playing the music, and I was playing the last song that I played, and that was the song I played for my daughter the night before while I was putting her to bed. The song was Baby Shark.
Baby shark, 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 do. That one? Okay.
Yeah.
I see, we're all the same. I got young kids.
Yep. Dude, so laying there, listening to Baby Shark on repeat. I'm not sure if it was because it was playing on repeat and I just wanted to get away from it, or it was, or it was the thought of my daughter, not growing up without her dad.
How old was your daughter at this time?
She was only 8 months.
Oh wow, baby.
Yeah. So and Brandon, this is the first time I was ever away from my family, my wife and daughter. So this was kind of a big step, and it's scary one. But listen to that song, that gave me, the strength and a little bit of more willpower to kind of reach up for the next rock. And I started dragging myself up the side of the drainage and crawled quite a ways. I got up and managed to get on my feet, and was able to. Sorry,
you're good.
I was able to get to my feet and get to the trees and try to pull myself up. It fell lots. My main focus was just get 5 more feet down the trail, get to the next tree, just so somewhere where somebody was going to find me, find the body. And I really don't want my wife to worry about me. And as I got further down the trail, it crosses another drainage. And so, of course, I ended up falling down that one, but I didn't end up going all the way down. I only went a little ways, and I just remember crawling up through that, thinking like, this sucks. Like, I just wanted to make it to the main trail, or hoping someone would, or find somebody or something for help. I just remember doing lots of crawling and just lots of kind of grabbing trees, trying to hold up, and just thinking, okay, well, I made it to that tree, I can make it to the next one. And I can make it to the main trail, and maybe I can make it to where the trail splits. So I just kept setting these little mini goals, trying to, as I went down the trail, just gave me a little bit of hope, a sense of hope that I can get out. Part way out, I guess about 7 kilometers from the truck, there is an outfitter's camp. I knew of it. It's been there forever. Every year the outfitter comes and sets up. So I'm like, I'm going to make it to there, and there's going to be somebody there. There always is. I get to their camp. They had an electric fence surrounding it to keep the bears out, and I opened up the fence, got in there, and opened up the first tent. There was nobody there. I got to the second tent. I opened it up. Nobody in that tent. There was the place was just empty. So I went back to the first tent thinking there's got to be, a radio or a sat phone in there. I started digging through things, and they had a 4-foot by 18-inch deep cabinet, all made of plywood, and it had just like a gate lock. You had to like turn and fold out this thing. Well, my fingers weren't working. I couldn't get it open. So I ended up just grabbing the corner of the cabinet, knocking it on the ground, and it broke open, and all these cans of canned food came rolling out. And I remember seeing this little black thing, looked like one of the old school mic phones back in the day, the little radio mic phones.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that and I was excited. I'm like, oh, there's a radio, there's the phone. I go to grab it and I'm trying to get it open, and it ended up being like a big Leatherman.
Oh, in a pouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was devastating. There was nothing in there that could help. But I remember just digging through the cans, and there was a triangle shaped one. I mean, at this point I was starving and I was so exhausted. There's this triangle shaped can, and I knew what it was, like the old cans of Spam. Mm-hmm. And you got to get the little teeth thing. You got to stick in the corner and roll it back. Right. Well, I mean,
good luck with that, with your fingers and all that shit.
Yeah, I just remember looking at it going, what the heck? So I had to take another can and started smashing it, and I got it, a corner of it open, and I just remember taking that big glob of that Spam and shoving it in the left side of my mouth because everything was all hanging out, sticking in the back of my side of my face, and I just was like, oh, it tastes so good.
But how do you chew or anything like that? Your jaw's hanging down. You just kind of mush it to death?
No, I just kind of let it sit on the kind of back of my mouth, on top of my tongue, and just let it kind of fall into my throat, right. Like how it.
Yeah,
it's like that little mushy.
At this point, you have to start thinking you're going to survive this. By this point,
yeah. At what point did your attitude kind of change?
Wasn't until a little bit later on. At this point, I still thinking I wasn't going to make it.
Were you thinking, fucking Spam is my last meal?
God. No, I was actually happy. It was pretty good.
You're good with Spam.
Golly.
I was just so hungry and just so exhausted. Like, it tasted good. I got it and I set it on the table, and I was sitting at the table and I'm trying to eat it, and blood was just dripping down, and I'm trying to wipe it off, and it was driving me insane because you're trying to eat and all you can see is just blood dripping everywhere. So they had these toilet paper bounty sheets on the table, and I took them and started wrapping my face, just wrapping around my head, and the skin was on my left side of my jaw was kind of hanging down. So I was holding it up, trying to hold my jaw up and wrap it tight because the blood was just pouring out or dripping out. When I was doing that, my jaw clicked, and there was so much pressure relief on my face. I think my jaw might have been dislocated.
Oh.
And it just clicked, and I'm like, ooh, it felt so much better. You could just kind of relieved a bunch of pressure in my face.
Right.
And so I'm taping up everything, or wrapping the bounty sheets, and there was a roll of tape that I found in the cabinet, and it looked like athletics tape, but it was vet wrap. And so I ended up taking that and trying to wrap that around my face. Then I'd go back to eating, and then, blood would squirt all over my hands. So I start taping them up with toilet paper and bounty sheets, and I got them taped up so it's not bleeding. And I'm trying to eat. I found some juice. They had some juice boxes on the table. They're grape juice boxes, and sucking them back. That was so good, just squirting them in. And I was really tired and exhausted, and I was still listening to Baby Shark at this point.
On repeat.
On repeat. I just was so tired. I just remember sitting there thinking, like, I don't know if I can make it. I'll just wait here for the outfitters to come. Maybe they're just out sheep hunting, and they'll come in. I grabbed a sleeping bag and I rolled it out on the floor, and I opened up their stove, where their wood stove. And these outfitters are really good. They keep fire starters in there. They got lighters, matches, everything all ready to go. And I remember I was just gonna light a fire and just lay there. Before I did that, I got a piece of paper and a Sharpie, and I wrote a little note to the outfitter, let them know who I was, and I was attacked by a bear. It was kind of like my goodbye note. Just let them know that I was attacked by a bear. It's really bad. And then the backside note was more towards my wife. Just, this is who my wife is. Let her know that I tried. And I put that on the table, and I was going to, start the fire. I walked out of the tent with 300 with my rifle there, and I had 3 bullets left. So as last ditch effort, I fired the last 3 bullets and put the gun inside. And then I was when I laid the gun inside, there's a couple of juice boxes left, a touch pack left, and I just grabbed that and said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go for the truck. Maybe I'll run into them coming in." And then
why'd you fire the last 3 shots? Why'd you fire the last 3 rounds?
That's a rescue.
That's a rescue thing.
Yeah, I just like SOS.
Right. Bam, bam, bam. That way somebody, because that's not a normal sound that you would hear out. 3 shots in succession like that. That's not like, hey, I shot at something and missed. I need help.
Yeah, and I figured, like at their camp, you could kind of tell where the rounds are coming from.
Right.
So maybe if somebody heard shots coming from the camp, they might like, oh, we better get back.
Right.
Something's happening, right?
Makes sense.
That was kind of my thought, and that was the last 3 rounds I had, and I figured, well, there's no need for me to take my gun anywhere with me anymore, right? It's useless. And at this point, I still didn't think I was going to make it. Working my way down the trail, there's a couple open patches where it's like a meadow you come into, and I thought at one point in time that I see them, in the distance. It looked like, oh, there's the wagon, the horse is coming. So I was really excited, and I get, I can't see, and I get closer, and it's just this big old spruce tree in the middle of the field, and it just, it just sucked the life out of you, right? You cross the creek, 3-4 more times. It's about ankle to knee deep of water. So I'm trying to cross through that. I get to near the end of the trail. There's one last ridge you got to climb over. It's quite a very steep hill, goes up, 500 feet or so, 600 feet in elevation. It's pretty much straight up. Or I can go down this creek and go 3 kilometers down the creek to a bridge, hop up on the road, and hike back a kilometer back to my truck. I know it fairly well. But if I went that way, who's going to find me? That's what I was kind of thinking. I said, well, I'll just stick to the trail. I'll go up the hill, and worst comes to worst, someone will find me there. I was just staring at the ground. Well, that's all I can really look at. And I just I just remembered, shuffling my feet up the hill and taking little steps. I got 3/4 of the way up the hill. There's these 2 rocks about shoebox size, a little bigger than shoebox. We're in the middle of the trail, and they've been there forever. And every time I come in, I'd ride my bike and I'd hit them, almost fall over. And I'd always been too lazy to move them off the trail. Mm-hmm. And I just remember looking down, and I'm like, hey, those rocks, they're there. I was so happy to see those rocks, of all things. And I had one juice box left. So I was excited. I'm like, wow, I got a juice box left. The rocks are here. I'm going to make it to the truck. So I sucked back the last juice box, kissed my hands, touched the rocks. I'm like, thank you. And I made it. And I made it to the top of that hill. And the truck was about a kilometer away. I was super excited. And then I get right to the truck, about 10 feet from the truck. There's a gate that crosses the trail. It was an old well road in it. Super overgrown now, but anyways, there's a gate that crosses the trail 10 feet from my truck. I can go to my right 30 feet around the gate through some swamp grass and a little bit of water and come back, or I can go 80 feet the other way, go around the end of the gate, nice trail, and back up to the road. And so I did one of the most dumbest things. I figured I was just going to go underneath the gate, and, that's the quickest path. And As soon as I ducked under, I started to get real lightheaded and real dizzy, and I started to pass out. And there was a road sign just on the edge of the channel, road sign with the holes in it. I jammed my fingers in the holes and grabbed on and tried to hold on, because I knew if I passed out, I would have been done.
Right.
And I'm just holding on to it, kind of bobbing in and out of consciousness. And probably 10, 15 minutes passed by, and I was able to get enough strength to stand up, and I just remember seeing my truck going like, this is stupid. I'm 10 feet from my truck. Like,
right. I'm gonna fucking die right here.
Yeah. And so when I finally was able to stand up, I stumbled to the truck, and the first thing I did was push the mirror out of the way. I didn't want to see what I looked like, and I open up the door of the truck. I sat in the seat and I started it up, and I remember looking out the front windshield, and I couldn't see the end of the hood. I couldn't tell where the end of the hood was. And I rolled down the window, and I looked out the window, and looking at the ground, and I couldn't tell where the ground was. I was like, oh, what the hell? And I'm just staring forward, trying to tilt my head back and look, and all I could see was just like fuzzy green, dark green. And there was a light spot in the middle. It looked just like white and dark green. And so I figured the light spot was the middle of the road. And I was like, well, fuck it. I'll just aim for that. Hopefully I'll run into somebody along the way or something. I made it to 22 kilometers drive on that road, and it got some pretty sharp turns in it. And part of the road, there's cliffs on the side and a little mini guardrail and a real rough gravel road. I don't know how I made it, but I made it out of there and pulled into a branch or a lodge called Panther River Resort. It's like a little place you can go to horseback ride or rent out little cabins. And I rolled into there and asking for some help.
Did you take out any of the guardrails or anything like that, or would you manage to navigate it okay?
I was able to navigate it okay. I thought I destroyed my truck because everything was so rough and I was bouncing. I figured I was driving in the ditch, rubbing against the guardrail. But when I got my truck back, it actually didn't have any scrapes in it, gouges or nothing. It was in pretty good shape. Just blood over the inside.
Blood everywhere on the inside.
What did the people say when they come out?
And then you walk in and you see a little girl, right? That's the first thing you see? That's the first person that greets you?
First person to see me was a little boy, a 9-year-old boy. Yeah, and I'm walking in. I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and get all the bounty sheets and all that wrapped around my head. And I walk in, and he thought somebody was trying to play a prank on him. Looked like a zombie, and he was like, "Grandma, someone's trying to play a prank." And I'm just like, "No, I got mauled by a bear. I need some help." And they're all shocked. And
I couldn't imagine.
Could you? I mean,
no. Like, what the fuck happened?
Like that scene walk up on your front door?
I'm also not to try to be lighthearted about this, but could you imagine the guys at the camp that you went to and bled all over and took their food and their drinks?
Right.
They're like, what the fuck happened?
Where did he go? He's got to be laying around
they're
here
out
somewhere.
there looking everywhere for you. So anyways, I'm sorry.
Did you ever get contact with the people whose camp that you raided, basically? Like, did they ever contact you?
Yeah, they're the one. They actually gave me the note and the rounds, and they had my rifle. The Panther Resort I went to, they're very good friends with that outfitter that has that camp. So they're the ones that flew me out. They let them know right away. They went in there on horseback to get my gear. They flew in with the helicopter, actually cleaned up the camp and got the note and things. And then they went back looking for my gear the next day, just to make sure they got it all out.
So you get to the granny comes out and talks to you, and she sees. They immediately call. Y'all have 911 in Canada? Is it the same as we got here in the States?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, same. So they called 911 and tried to get a hold of STARS. We have a helicopter. I think there's 2 helicopters, STARS Air Ambulance, that come fly out and pick you up too. So they're trying to get a hold of them. They couldn't come out. The helicopters were busy. The ambulance, they couldn't figure out where we were or how to get to us because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. The owner of the lodge, he owns a helicopter, and it was his daughter that was there trying to help me. She's about the same age as me, and it was her son that saw me. So she called him and said, "Look, you need to come out here now and come get this guy." So he flew from his helicopter from a small town, Eckville. It's about a half-hour helicopter ride away. So he flew in with his helicopter and picked me up and flew me into the closest town that had a fairly reasonable-sized hospital. It was a town called Sundre. It's about I'd say 25 to 35-minute flight from there to Sundre. When we landed in Sundre,
when does the pain say? Are you experiencing any pain at this point? Or is it minuscule, or what's during this walk? Because how many hours did it take for you to get to where you were going, do you think?
Well, it was 9:36 a.m. is when I got attacked by the bear, or when I took the cell.
Jeremy, hang on. We lost you for a second. If you can hear me, just hold on a second. I can't get this up. If you can hear me, hang on just a minute, Jeremy. Hang on just a second, Jeremy. We lost you for just a second. Okay, it was 9:36 whenever you took the selfie.
Yeah, when I took the selfie, and I made it to the Panther River Resort around 4:15ish.
Wow. Wow.
It's a long 8 hours.
That is a long time.
And you didn't go into shock, and you're fighting for your life, and now you land in Sundry at the hospital. And I bet they're thinking, what in the hell just happened here?
But was there any pain? When did did any pain set in during this 7-8 hour journey?
There was some parts of it, trying to take a step, or when you fall over, you feel a little bit of pain. Nothing too unbearable at this point. It didn't really start setting in the pain until I got into Sundry Hospital, where everybody starts pulling on things. So we land in Sundry, and a normal bear attack, or the average bear attack is just somebody gets bit and a couple scrapes.
Right.
So the Sundry Hospital was thinking, this guy got attacked by a bear. He's probably got a couple bruises, maybe a broken arm.
Yeah.
The helicopter lands, and I can just see bodies outside the helicopter kind of standing there, and the mood seemed kind of light. Everybody's like lollygagging, and they open up the door of the helicopter, and I remember turning, looking, and said hi, and panic set in.
Hi.
Oh shit, we're gonna need some more wipes.
Motherfucker, why'd they bring him to Sundry?
Yeah.
So everybody just started panicking. Like, it was just, everybody just started going all different ways, and they were trying to yank me out of the helicopter, and the lady, who's dad on launch, her name was Amanda. She's sitting beside me, and she's like yelling. I'm like, just leave him be. He can get out on his own. Leave him be. And one of the doctors tried cutting behind the helicopter, and it was open tail rotor. Of course, it's still going.
Jesus.
So he's trying to cut through the back. Amanda jumps out of the seat, dives underneath the tail of the helicopter, tackles this doctor, and is trying to hold him down. He's trying to fight her, and she's like, the rotor. She's yelling at him, and there's some nurses trying to cut him back, and so she's yelling at him like, "Hey guys, like, watch out!" So she's yelling at him, and then she's yelling at the people trying to pull me out. She's like, "Just fucking leave him alone. He can get out."
Yeah.
Right leg had.
Yeah, you're about to get taken by the rotor of this helicopter if you keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it was just chaotic at this point. My right leg had stiffened up straight, so I couldn't get it out of the helicopter. So I'm trying to turn it around, and people are yanking on me, and I'm like trying to tell them, like piss off. And I got my body somewhat turned, and then I just feel these two little arms sweep up underneath my armpits and wrap around my chest and just pulled me out of the back of that helicopter. And it was this little tiny nurse. At the time, I didn't know who she was, or how big she was until a year later. But this little tiny nurse, she grabbed me and swung me out of the helicopter, threw me on a gurney, and they pushed me inside the emergency room. And in Sundry, it's a very, very small hospital. Like, the emergency room is like a bed in the middle of a room where people can sit around.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, I got to be the first person that went in. And they had me in a bed, and I'm kind of in the middle of the room. They cut all my clothes off me, and they're tugging and pulling on my leg and poking at my face. And I'm telling them, like, to piss off. Like, I didn't want them to touch my head unless they're going to do surgery on it right away. I was fighting them, didn't want them to undo my tourniquet or nothing on my head. One of the doctors was bending my right leg, and that was excruciating pain. And I remember I grabbed him by the cuff of the shirt and was like telling him I was going to hit him. And
did you tell him, like, hey, in this rat's nest of stuff up here, I've got lips, I've got ears, like, I've got everything you're going to need to put me back together again. Don't lose this stuff.
I told him that was my face up there and everything's exposed, and don't take it off unless you're going to do surgery, because it's, and they're like poking at I remember they're poking at my scalp, side of my face, my jaw. I could kind of talk, like, you kind of understand. It was kind of muffled.
Yeah.
I told him what happened, and like I said, when he started bending my knee, that's when things got I got real aggressive, because that was really hurting.
What was in your knee? What all did you have taken away there?
So my knee, all the ligaments were severed right at the knee, so I couldn't even bend it or lift it or move it around.
And then when they were trying to bend it, it was too much.
Yeah, it was all stiffened, and they were trying to bend it, and the pain was excruciating. And I'm laying there, I'm butt ass naked. There's like 20 people poking at me. I just remember Amanda's in there yelling at him, like, have some decency, cover him up and quit messing with his leg and just leave him alone. And this one nurse came in and she pushed me down on the bed flat, and she had a drill and she drilled into my collarbone. I remember, looked like DeWalt drill. She drilled in my collarbone and put I don't know what they call it, but
It's an IV.
they attached something in for kind of like an IV, but they attached it into my bone, and she pumped me with antibiotics, and that was really all they did for me. And they threw me in a gurney. I couldn't lay my head down because the back of my head was all raw and smashed up. When I laid down, it was just so much pain. So there's a young doctor was sitting there holding my head, and they threw me on a gurney and loaded me up in the ambulance, and an hour and a half to Calgary, my hometown, to go to the Foothills Hospital. So I had one doctor in there holding my head together, and they had the EMT guy. He was sucking the blood out of my nose and mouth because it just filled up, and he'd sit there and suck it all out, and made little hand signals because he wouldn't allow me to talk. I had to make a little gator with my mouth to say, suck out the blood out of my mouth, and then put my nose or my thumb through my 2 fingers to show him that's my nose. At the hospital there, they didn't know how to intubate me because I wasn't breathing through my mouth. It was all coming through in between my eyes and my skull. That's where all the air was passing through.
Wow. So your nose and everything was removed, and that's where it had to come out.
And that's, because my face was all smashed up. That's where the breath was coming out, was up by my forehead.
Did you have, another dumb question, did you have trouble breathing that you noticed?
It was hard when I laid down because the blood would pool, and then you like cough, or you just couldn't breathe. You just couldn't push it through.
The only way you could breathe right is if you're standing up, basically.
Correct. Yeah. If I was standing up, the blood wouldn't block my airway. But yeah, laying down, it was like trying to breathe through a straw with water.
Did you notice at all during this trek out that your air was passing through basically between your eyes? No.
So you get to the hospital in Calgary, and I'm assuming Calgary's a big town. They have a level 5 trauma center, the best that you can get.
Best of the best.
Yeah, they had the Foothills Hospital is probably one of the best hospitals in Alberta. I get in there, they take me right into the waiting room, or right into the emergency room. But at this time, the emergency room's under construction, so they usually take you through the back door. Well, that was under construction, so they end up taking me right through the waiting room.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God.
So here,
people passing out.
So here I'm in a gurney, and they're pushing me past everybody. And, of course, my whole family's sitting there, my mom, my wife, my sisters.
Oh, that's horrible.
They could all see me coming, missing everything. They take me into the back room, and they're doing the blood pressure and heart rate, and my blood pressure is 116 over 66, and I had a heartbeat of 78 beats a minute. I mean, the doctor's like,
bad
wow.
at all.
It's not bad, is it?
No, it's good.
No. He's like, well, basically, he's just missing his face.
Yeah.
I was kind of joking with him a little bit. And they're going to take me in for surgery right away, and they asked me if I wanted to speak to anyone in my family. And so I said, yeah, I'd like to speak to my wife. Her name's Joyce. She's in the waiting room. But I told them they had to cover up my face because I didn't want her to see what I looked like. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that she saw me when I rolled in.
Right.
So they covered up my face. She come in and basically said my final goodbyes because I'm pretty nervous about going in for surgery. And I just remember as soon as she left, that was a very scary moment, and I was very emotional. There was this young lady, doctor. She leaned over and she had her flashlight. She's right in my face, and I just could make out her green eyes. And she's like, "I want to be right here." And she held my hand, and they took me from there into get, X-rays and CT scans. And she was sitting there holding my hand the whole time, talking to me, telling me what's going on. And I just remember going through all the scans and everything, kind of didn't know what's happening or was very confused. They get me into the surgery room, move me onto the table. And this other lady, soft voice comes, and she's leaning over me, and she's sitting there talking to me. And I just remember she had brown eyes, and the two of them were there, and they're telling me what they're going to do. They're going to, push this tube down my throat, and then I have to count backwards from 10, and I'll, and I was, very scared and never been in this situation before, being knocked out for surgery. And I remember they gave me this drink. It was like choking down slime. And then they started pushing the tube down. And of course, I was, freaking out a little bit. So the ladies are holding my hands, and I just remember this Australian guy down there says, "Don't worry, man, I got you right here." And he's holding my feet and squeezing them, and they're shoving this tube down. I ended up finally going out under, but I wasn't fully under. I remember watching a little Asian guy stitch up my one hand, my left hand, and I remember this other guy stitching up my knee. I was fully awake, but I couldn't feel anything. And I remember, them putting pieces of my face and just stitching. The first surgery was a little over 12 hours.
Wow. Jeez. Now I want to back you up for just a second. When your wife comes in, did she receive any of the text messages that you tried to send out?
No, she didn't get any of them. There was no service up where I was, so they never actually sent. So when she gets the call from, I'm assuming the hospital or however that works, that was the first she'd heard of it. Yeah, it was. It was about 6:15 at night. She gets a call, and it was our RCMP officer called her up and said, "Your husband was attacked by a bear. He's heading to the Foothills Hospital in Calgary." They didn't know my condition. At 6:15, she gets a call. Was she beginning to worry about you because of how long it had been since she had any communications with you, or was this kind of normal for the type of hunting that you were doing? So the plan was for me to be out there for 4 days straight, so she didn't know.
She wasn't expecting.
She wasn't expecting you then.
No.
Okay.
No.
So so they put you down and they operate on you for 12 hours. After that 12-hour surgery, when you come out, are you stable, or they got you critical and they don't know what's going to happen with you?
I was stable at that point. So they had me in ICU, and they had me hooked up to all the machines, breathing. Had all the tubes in me still in my throat, helping me breathe. They woke me up and with the tubes in, and I freaked out and started trying to pull the tubes out. So they pulled me back under again, removed the tubes, and then woke me up a second time.
And then, so at that time, have they reattached had the titanium plates in your face, or have they done all that?
Yes, all that was already done.
So, boy, you got a hell of a damn plastic surgeon. There ain't a titty doctor in Beverly Hills done any better than the guy that did your face.
He did a very good job.
He did a hell of a job. Although
he said about a month later, he said, "You wish you had before pictures of me because you could have done a better job."
Well, he done a hell of a job. So, at this time, when you wake up, your head is all sewed up. How many stitches do you have in your head and staples?
Hundreds. I believe there's over 1,000 of each.
Wow. How many surgeries did you have to have after the first surgery?
So I had, day 3, I had another 12-hour surgery. And then,
what was that to do?
That was to kind of, fix my ears. There's a bunch of things on the side of my head and top of my head they had to try to close up. I mean, the whole right side of my head here was exposed bone and plate for over a month.
Were they
because they didn't know what to do with it?
Yeah, were they able to reuse any of the stuff that you gathered, your ear that you found on the ground, your lips? They were able to reattach it all.
Yes, they were it was actually alive, because the way when I layered it, put it on my head, it still had some blood flow to it, so it kept it alive.
Really?
I'm gonna tell you what, you're one of the toughest son bitches I've ever known in my life. I'm telling you right now, what a will to live, what a will to survive, and thank you God for letting him not shoot himself. I mean, what an amazing, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing, your will to survive on this thing. I mean, what would you have given the chances? Less than 1%, he would have made it from the second bear attack?
Yeah.
I mean, not bleeding out, not going into shock, not passing out. I mean, everything.
Did they ever say how much blood you lost?
So just before the second surgery, I was really cold and was pretty pale. That's the first time that I recall them ever giving me blood, and they gave me 1 unit of blood.
And that's it.
And
I
that's
bet you
it.
they gave him blood in the first surgery, though. At
Well,
12
maybe.
hours. I'm sure they probably did.
But I know that like head wounds, they bleed profusely. So I didn't know if like you're losing just a ton of blood because basically your whole face is removed.
So some of the things that they think I did that really helped save me was the fact where I tied the tourniquet. I tied it so tight around my neck and hold my jaw up that it slowed the blood flow going to my
very
head.
Good.
And then one of the ladies at the lodge said that when I got there, I wasn't bleeding. It was all just dirt and dried blood and pine needles stuck in my face and rocks. She said I started to bleed really badly after I had some Gatorade. I'm sitting there waiting for the helicopter, and then I relaxed. She said she could tell that I just relaxed and kind of, I don't know, just thought everything felt fine, and I started to bleed real bad again. So I don't know, being in shock a little bit helps slow your blood flow down. I don't know.
Coagulate your blood a little bit.
God has a plan for you, my friend. I'm telling you right now, what an amazing story. So, got to ask this question. What happened to the fucking bear? Did you shoot the bear when you shot 3 times, or did they go hunt it down?
No, we're good friends now. Nothing happened to the bear. They asked me in the hospital what I wanted to do because he went out there and tried to trap the bear. I told him just there's no point of doing anything to the bear. She was just being a bear.
Yep.
I got between her and her cub. I was far enough back in. The chances of a person running into this bear is slim to nil. There was no need to put her down. I mean, none of us, we didn't do anything wrong. She didn't. I didn't. Wrong place, wrong time.
She's just being a bear.
Just being a bear.
Now, when you get out of your second 12-hour surgery, how many more surgeries did you have after that?
I think it was a total of 21 procedures that I had over the course of a year.
21.
Yeah, that's from putting in the tear ducts in my eyes, taking my side of my nose here used to go up quite high, so I took a chunk of my ear out and patched that in to kind of close it up. My face kind of drooped on one side, so they had to stitch that back up. You know, I had one eye was like on a slant, the other one was like big round. So I had like an Asian eye and a Japanese eye. We used to make fun of it because it looked kind of goofy.
I love a sense of humor. You look to me just like somebody's been in a couple of hockey fights.
Yeah.
No, I looked a little more goofier than that.
What is your wife's attitude throughout all of this? I mean, you know, how long have y'all been married to this time?
That's a good question.
I didn't mean to put.
I'm gonna say at least 6 years.
Was she at the hospital through all this, or was she? Because you know you got an 8-month-old baby you got to juggle at this time. So, what was her role in all this?
So in the beginning, the first couple of weeks, she was at the hospital every day, day and night. My sisters end up were coming in and doing the night shift because I had to have somebody with me 24/7 because of the nightmares, flashbacks. Need somebody there to help get me out of it. My wife played a huge role in that because from day one, when they woke me up in the ICU, she was rubbing my feet. I was going into flashbacks and she was rubbing my feet. And then I have another good friend who was a social worker, and he kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, just keep doing that and tell him he's in a safe place, just to train my body that you're okay. So every time I have a flashback or a nightmare, they would squeeze my feet and tell me I'm in a safe place, and that would get me out of it really quick. So we needed somebody in the room to be able to do that because I'd flail. When the nurses come in, you know, and you're flailing, the first instinct is to tie you down or hold you down. Mm-hmm. But then I'd get really violent, start punching, and I'm a fairly big guy. So, I mean, I've hit a few nurses and doctors because of that.
Right. How long did the night terrors last?
Up until about a year ago.
Wow, that long.
Yeah. I did several different types of treatment for PTSD. You know, we're keeping track of the things that that would start it, like ice breaking. So I'd take an ice tray and they'd crack it. That'd put me into a flashback because it sounds like your skull cracking, getting chewed on.
Yeah.
The smell of blood did it for me. I worked at a slaughterhouse, and one day I was.
Jesus Christ.
Your man Elon Musk.
Texas wind.
Me around the auger room.
Okay, we lost you. You work at a slaughterhouse, and the smell of the blood would trigger something?
Would cause a flashback, and so one of the times it was in an auger room, walking through the auger room, and I could smell the blood, and it put me right into a flashback. Me getting chewed on, and I was staggering down the auger hallway, and the guys I worked with just got around me, gave me like a big bear hug, and just helped guide me through there so I wouldn't fall into the augers until I came to. Then I had to start, with signs or something on me to let people know that if I'm go into a flashback, to squeeze my feet. When I go to work, I tell people that every day. If I went anywhere without my wife there, I let the people know if I go into a flashback, do this. So I was working with a few therapists and trying to figure out what the triggers are, how to control them, how to understand them. Things got better for a bit. Then one day I got home from work early, and my eyes don't close. I think this is me closing my eyes, sleep at night. It's great for babysitting, but not so good for sleeping. I got home early and I fell asleep on the couch watching TV. Of course, my eyes are open. My wife gets home, and my daughter at this time was probably around 2 years old, 2.5 years old. And she come running in because she's my truck there, and she's all excited. So she comes running in. I'm on the couch, so she decides to jump on me. So she comes barreling in and jumps on me, and my wife didn't quite notice right away. Next thing you know, my daughter's on me. I end up throwing her across the room. She gets hurt. She's crying. I'm in a massive flashback. My wife is trying to hold me back, trying to deal with my daughter. I remember I finally came to. There's blood all over the place. Everybody's screaming and crying, and I was totally confused because I'm thinking, why is my wife and daughter there? Why are they crying? Like, the bear's coming back. We got to get out of here. And that was just a low point, and I needed more help. I knew what I was doing, it was working, just I needed more. Then I got into a program called ART, Accelerated Resolution Therapy, rapid eye movement, where you do voluntary image replacement and basically replay the story. And I did one session of that, and it was the first time I was able to sleep for a full 7 hours, 8 hours straight.
Well, now what is this? What is this therapy? You just you go through the attack all over again?
You basically go through the attack all over again, and you use rapid eye movements. The therapist would wave their hand in front of your face, and you would focus on the hand, but replay the story in your head. It seems like it's hocus pocus. Trust me, at first I was like, what the hell is this, right? Why is someone waving a hand in front of my face?
Right.
But then I realized that I'm there for help. Obviously, they know more than I do, and I need to put my trust into them, because that's what they're not there to make it worse. They're there to make it better. So I just, listened to what they had to say. Like, the first 2 minutes, I'm thinking, what kind of bullshit is this? Then I just say, you know what? Fuck it. Try it. I mean, what I'm doing right now is not working. I'm going to try something else. It was amazing, the difference, though. I got home that night and I slept like a baby. Like, I've never had that in 3.5, 4 years at this point.
So what does this do when they're waving the hand in front of your face? Does it just kind of rewire your brain with dealing with this trauma?
Basically, it's like, nowadays, if you want to set an alarm clock, you got to flip it over, hold 2 buttons for 13 seconds, whatever, and hit a bunch of buttons. That's kind of what it does to your brain. It just resets your brain.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting.
How the fuck do they even figure this shit out?
Trial and error.
I don't know.
But I mean, like, rapid eye movement? Like, who the fuck would ever figure this shit out?
Now we're a couple of years since this is done. You're going to have scars on the back of your head forever. From your neck down, no long-term at all problems?
Well, I got problems with my right leg because my ligaments were all severed. So I got to keep my leg in shape. Otherwise, I got to wear a brace. On my inner thigh, right close to my package, I got bit there by the bear.
Is that
and
when you
there was
had
a
it in the
nice-
headlock, like when you had your legs wrapped around her head or her neck?
No, this was when she pulled me out of the tree. She was nipping at me, and I think that's where she got me once. And so I had a perfect. You could see all their teeth, their front teeth, their canines, and her back teeth all wrapped around in my inner thigh there, and it's pretty cool. But they took the skin graft from there, so now I lost all that fancy scarring.
Dude,
So I mean that's
the
so I don't know how people are going to believe me that I got bit by a bear, right?
when you was telling that story, besides the overwhelming fact of having a bear trying to kill your ass, the smell that had to stink, it had to be the worst smell of the whole life. That thing laying on you.
Yeah, it kind of smelled like I don't know, like kind of like burning horse poop.
Really?
That's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah, just a dirty horse manure smell.
Was there ever a time that she had like her entire body weight on you? Was the weight of her enormous?
Yeah, when she took the first bite, she had her paws on my shoulders, but not really. I can't quite remember. I can remember her pushing on me, but I don't ever remember a lot of pressure, a lot of weight.
Right.
How big was she?
I mean, they figure she's about 325 to 350 pounds.
I don't know anything about bears. Is that big for a bear?
I don't think so.
Average size of an adult female.
Okay.
But a male will be 500-600 pounds,
I mean,
right?
Yeah, I would say that. Probably, closer to 500.
Have you been back to the site that this all took place?
Oh yes, I was back there within 1 year of the 1 year on the day of being mauled, and the 3rd year and the 5th year anniversary.
What did the officials say? Because I'm sure that they investigated this site. Like, what did they say that this looked like immediately after this took place?
It was a chaotic scene. There was stuff everywhere. When they first came upon the scene, they were like, "What's going on here?" Because my bicycle was in some bushes, kind of about a foot or so off the ground, kind of laying in some bushes. It looked like someone just tossed it there. Where my backpack was, there was shit everywhere. And Swedish berries. I had a pack of Swedish berries, and after I got mauled, I was trying to get them open. And when I opened up the pack, it was a big family-sized pack. And when I opened it, they got Swedish berries all over the mountainside. So it was like 10-foot radius of Swedish berries. So they brought that bag back with them and gave it to me in the hospital as like
Swedish berries.
Yeah, a pack of Swedish berries.
I'm telling you exactly what they said. They said that's the toughest son of a bitch in Canada right there.
How did she not like get your jugular? Or I mean, there's so many intricate, just one little extra swipe here or there, and you're bleeding out in seconds.
Blessed.
So one of the things that saved me is I had loose clothing on.
Uh-huh.
So bears don't understand clothing. So when they bite into something, it's got to hide, and they can feel the tension of the hide and everything. So when they bite clothes, they feel that looseness, and they don't bite as deep because it's not something they're used to.
Right.
So anywhere I had clothes on, the bites weren't that deep. They were bad, but not that bad. Anywhere where there was no clothing, got devastated, like my face.
Right.
So that's one of the things that helped me out was the loose clothing.
Jesus. And then, so now, how long are you in the hospital once all this is said and done? You had 21 procedures. I mean, what was the longest continuous stint from the time that they do the 2 12-hour surgeries? How long are you in the hospital for?
So the only length of time I was in the hospital from the day of the attack till I got out was 5 weeks and 1 day.
What are they doing during the 5 weeks and a day? Are they just kind of making sure that everything is going as planned, or is there any physical therapy that they have you doing?
Well, so the first couple of weeks in the hospital, I was unable to stand. I was had a catheter, severe infections from the bear. Also, they gave me rabies shots.
What are the infections from? Just from the nastiness of their mouth?
Yeah, of all their saliva on their bite. So I had massive infections. I was a pretty big, large guy, but they didn't guess my body weight right, so they weren't giving me enough antibiotics in the beginning. So then when they finally weighed me, be able to get me onto a scale, they're like, "Oh crap!" So they had to almost double what they were giving me.
Shit.
Then I couldn't walk, so was after the first week they took the catheter out, and then they stood me up, and they brought a walker in, and everybody's standing there, and it's the first time I've ever bent my right leg at this point, because they did all the tendons and I still had stitches in it. So they got me up, and I was able to take the first few steps inside the hospital room. And the goal was just for me to walk to the washroom in the walker and walk back. Well, my wife wasn't there. She went down to go get coffee and breakfast. So I managed to make it out of the room, and I started to walk down the hallway because I wanted to show my wife that, hey, I'm still here. I can still walk. And I just remember her walking onto the floor or down the hallway, coming up the stairs, and she sees me, and she come running over to me right away and was breaking down in tears because she didn't think I was ever going to be able to walk again. And that was good. So as soon as I was able to get on my feet and walk, the infections got better because I was able to walk around, get my heart moving, blood pumping. So things got healed a lot quicker. The reason why I was so long in there was the right side of my head was still exposed bone and plate. There was no nothing. It was just all exposed. They weren't sure what to do with it. Near the end of September, they decided to take a chunk of my head and move it over top of the bone, and hopefully that would take. So they go to remove it in surgery, and then the piece of my head started to die, so they had to move it back. And then they just put a skin graft over it just to cover the bone, and they're going to figure out what to do from there. Because it was, like I said, it was still open wound. There was no skin. It was just tissue and skull and plate. So they put a skin graft over it, and then they give it a 10% chance of the skin taking over the bone because you need blood flow and you need meat. And they gave me extra 2% for having Grizzly DNA now. That's what the doctor said. So, so it was a day after surgery. That surgery was only 6 hours. They took me in the morning. So in the afternoon, I woke up and everything was kind of good. I planned, though, the following day to go to the shooting range with my friends because I wanted to see if I could actually still hit things with my rifle. So we went to an indoor shooting range, and this was just the day after surgery. So I got this all these bandages over my head, and I put a neck gaiter on to kind of cover up the bandages. I had drains sticking out all over the place and kind of hanging around my neck like a necklace, and walking all funny, kind of cockeyed. And I got my gun, walking to the shooting range, and we spent the day at the shooting range, and I was able to hit a 2 foot by 2 foot target at 50 yards. So I was quite happy. But I remember walking in the shooting range. The guy's like, "Is he all right to shoot?" And my buddy's like, "Oh yeah, he's fine."
Good.
Like, can you see the target? Yeah, it's over there. And the guy's like, yeah.
Holy shit!
What
man.
an amazing story! I'm telling you.
And then, how long does it take you to? Because you have a book out, and I mean, I'm sure writing that book, you relived everything over and over again, and that had to be hard.
That was hard, but a good thing during the hospital, I asked for psychiatric help, and I was working with a therapist, and one of the things we did was keep a journal. Every time I'd wake up from a nightmare, I'd write down what happened and what the dream was about and how I felt. So I had quite an extensive journal for the first 6 months to a year of what happened. When I met with Crosby Cotton, the co-author, he talked to me about writing the book and wanted to get my story out there because he heard about it and figured, this should share with people because they can learn lots of things from it. It was good for me because I had the journal entries. I was able to give them that, so I didn't have to relive a lot of it right away. It wasn't until just before the book came out, though, it started getting really bad. Because there's some things in the book that I never told anybody before. Like the fact that I tried to commit suicide, and some of the things asking for help. That was hard for me to admit that, and that caused some nightmares from that.
When you're in the middle of this, it is amazing to me that your memory of it all is so sharp and so keen. Like it's fascinating that you remember such details that I think would have just been washed away, and especially in my mind, because I got a terrible memory, but you remember every account of this.
I do. I remember every tree, every step. When they brought me back to the scene a year later, the game wardens who did the investigation brought me back to the scene. They were looking for some of my personal effects that they never found. So we flew back to the scene. I remember where I was standing, where I fought the bear, what I did. The only thing I didn't quite remember exactly what tree I climbed. When we got to the spot, I knew what tree I climbed. I just on the hillside there. I was like 3-4 feet away, but I remember everything, like every bite, every little detail. And the game wardens, we walked through it together, and I showed them where I was, and then they're like, "Wow, this is like wow!" They were surprised I remembered.
When you went to the scene, did that cause you any mental distress?
Yes, it did. I was sitting leaning against the rotten stump there. One of the guys was walking in the bushes behind me. And that hearing those branches break put me right. Yeah, immediately put me into a flashback. And so they're all sitting there trying to grab my feet, through my boots, and it was really tough. It was a very tough moment.
So you're the spot that they need to get to kind of put your mind at ease is your feet. Is that from the initial hospital visit where the nurse or the doctor was massaging your feet saying, "Hey, I'm right here with you," and this is what they're doing?
I think it was more with my wife doing it and then telling me I was in a safe place. Okay. I think that repeatedly over and over just trained my body that when someone touches my feet, that means you're okay. Like it's
right.
I can't believe they watched The Revenant in the hospital. Jesus, that's
that fucking Leo. That's a mild bear attack.
Yeah,
I mean, he just kind of nipped on Leo's back a little bit and tossed him around a little. Like that's nothing.
And then he's crawling away, and the bear gets down and chews on him a little bit from behind.
Yeah,
that'd be like watching.
You'll take that bear attack
like
any day.
Nightmare on Elm Street in a burn ward. You just don't do stuff like that. That was a bad deal.
What? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The nurses had a very good sense of humor. They'd come in, and I would be one of the people that never complained. They'd come in and they would draw straws who gets to pick my nose or squeeze the pus out of it, because they found that fun, all that interesting body fluids that came out. And they would sit there and pull staples for hours, and they'd all giggle like, "Oh, look what's coming out of there!" And they'd just squeeze, and it was fun for them. And we had lots of fun conversations. They would take me out for lunch or dinner. We'd go get grilled cheese sandwiches and chocolate milk. And I remember one day I told the charge nurse I'm going to go down to the cafeteria there and go get chocolate milk and a grilled cheese sandwich. And she's like, "You don't have any money." I'm like, "Don't worry about that. I'll figure it out." So I'm down there with my walker, and I'm standing there smiling, and I got my dimple. My dimple still works, and I have one of my eyebrows. And so I'd be standing there like, "Hey, do you want to buy me something to eat?" That'd give me a free meal every time.
Does the other side, the right side of your face, it doesn't work?
No, it doesn't work at all.
Not at all? What is that? Is that just from the way that they had to restructure everything?
So some of the muscles or the whatever causes it to twitch it's not there, and I don't have any feeling in it.
Nothing at all.
Nothing else. So I got no feeling on the right side of my face, and on the lower left here, I got no feeling. My fingertips, I got no feeling in my fingertips. My left leg from the knee down is all numb.
What's that like dealing with every day on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it's awesome because you don't feel the pain, but it sucks because you pick up something hot and it'll fall out of your hands. You're like, what's going on? As your fingers are melting.
Really?
So when you, when you're trying to open stuff, you can't open up a can, or you break things because you can't feel it. Shooting a gun or my bow sucks because you can't tell when you're touching the trigger. Right. So things just go off unexpectedly. It sucks.
So you've burned your finger and you didn't even realize it, but your body still knew and it dropped it.
Well, no, because it just was melting on my hand.
Oh my God. Jesus.
So it sucks. Because I'm a maintenance supervisor. We got we got a team that does welding, and they were welding up a stand, and I go over there to move it, and I picked it up, and it just come out of my hand, and the guy's like, "Whoa, that's hot." And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of figured that out."
Melting my skin away. I got that.
When it comes to cold, I got to be very careful. I always got to wear gloves because I don't know if I'm cold or hot.
Right.
And so my fingers, I freeze them. So I got to be very, very careful. Shooting a shotgun's not bad because you can slam the trigger in that and it doesn't really affect it. But with a rifle, if you slam the trigger, right, you're going to miss it.
Off. Yeah.
Yeah. With my bow, same thing. I had to get a special release made because I love the bow hunt. And I had to get one with an ultra sensitive trigger so that it just, as soon as you touch it, it goes off.
Yeah.
Now I'm back to being accurate again.
When did you when did you feel comfortable enough to go hunting again?
So within 48 hours of being out of the hospital, I went back to the gate that I tried crawling underneath with the ladies that helped me out at the lodge and my wife. So we went that day. I brought my shotgun and I actually ended up shooting 2 spruce grouse. And it was a few days after that, I went out hunting with a good friend and shot a whitetail doe with my rifle.
Good for you.
Pretty much.
So a week later, basically, a couple days later, you're right back out.
Basically, a week later.
So,
Jesus,
tell everybody where they can get the book.
Yes, where can you get your book?
So you can get the book at a few places. One of them is off my webpage, grizzlydude.ca. You can order a book, and all books off of there are signed, and they come with one of my fancy sayings of the bookmarks. I got several different types of bookmarks. And you can also get off of Amazon or RockyMountainBooks.com. I'm not sure how many bookstores in Texas carry, but it's Chapters Indigo or Indigo Chapters. But yeah.
Fascinating.
And also too, on my webpage, you can pick up Grizzly Dude swag. I'm because of struggles with PTSD and doing this, I want to raise money to help other people who suffer from PTSD who are in similar situations. So I'm starting a fund up, trying to raise $5 million to get an endowed chair position at a university to research into PTSD, research into PTSD and treatment methods. And so with the swag off the webpage, a certain amount of proceeds are going directly to that to help raise money.
Well,
listen,
you've been a great guest, and it's been a fascinating podcast, and we appreciate you being on here.
You are the toughest man that I've ever listened to. I mean, my God.
Everybody go out there and buy some swag, buy the book.
Everything.
And we appreciate you very much, and we may be up that way this fall. If we are, we'd like to take you out to dinner and buy you a beer.
No problem.
Hey,
I'd love that.
My last question. How to eat the grilled cheeses and the chocolate milk? Like once after the surgeries, everything was just kind of aligned and you could chew and do everything like normal?
No, it was very hard because in the very beginning, I only had about a finger's width for my bite because all the muscles were so tight. And so I had to take up little pieces and drink through a straw and kind of try to munch. But then after a few months of extensive research, I was able to get it open about a half an inch to bite. So in the beginning, it was very tough. I had to flatten everything right down and take little bites or peel off the pieces.
What was your diet like after all this? Was it exclusively grilled cheeses and chocolate milk?
No, there was lots of baby food, like the little squeeze pouches, like the applesauce, lots of those. I mean, when a couple of months later I was able to eat like a hamburger, I went to this place called Peter's Drive-In. They make these wicked burgers, and I remember eating one of those. It was so good because I was able to actually take a bite of it.
Right. Get your mouth open wide enough to take a bite. Jesus. Crazy. Well, listen, this has been a very, very fun podcast. I appreciate you, and I wish you all the success in the world with the book, and I hope that everybody will go buy a book and some swag and help you get that chair position.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. If there's anything we can do for you in the future, please let us know, and stay safe out there.
You too.
Hey, thank you, man. God bless you. Great
Bye.
story.
All right.
That's the toughest son of a gun Man, I'll tell you right now, when he was telling that first part, it almost make me want to throw up.
Get you a little queasy.
Oh, just, man.
Hit you in the
can't even-
privates.
It's like one of them things when you see something on TV and you put your hands in front of your eyes so you don't see it.
Right.
That's what I wanted to do. I just can't imagine that. Wow.
Really.
The will to live. The will to survive. And that's why I'm scared of bears.
Oh, Jeffrey. They're more afraid of you than you are of them.
Well, that's some bitch right there, wasn't.
She was deathly afraid of him. She thought that he was going to hurt her cub.
Well, she came back 3 times.
That's how scared she was.
She couldn't get enough.
That's how scared she was.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Have a great weekend. This comes out on Friday or Thursday, right?
Yeah, sure.
Today's Tuesday.
I guess.
Okay. Well, whenever it comes out, it'll come out this week. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Go to Ducks. We'll be at Ducks first weekend in May with Boss Shot Shells. A lot of our sponsors will be there.
Oh, and I do need to issue a redaction. Dive Bomb Squad Fest, they are having the normal show, normal contest, calling contest.
So we'll have contests
everything
for everything then.
like they had like they've done the last 2 years. It's going to be the exact same. So
Go to Dive.
it's not going to be just novice and amateurs. I was wrong about that. Asher told me today. Normal calling contest just like the last 2 years. So go to Squad Fest in July. End of July, I think.
Andy will drink a beer for about buys him one.
I will not, but I will listen to you call, and that'll be a really good time. So head to Ducks in May, head to Squad Fest in July. Bye, everybody. We love you. Peace. Go check out Gundog Outdoors, Shin Gear, Lucky Duck, Pacific Calls, Dive Bomb Industries, Pacific Calls, Boss Shot Shells, Mossberg, Looking Glass Podcast, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Stanfield Outfitters, Dirty Duck Coffee, Ducks Unlimited, and Double T British Kennels.